Thank you for joining us for today's Meet the Russell Group pre-event webinar, where we'll be chatting with 8 of the Russell Group universities. Today's session is called Embarking on University Research, which sounds a little daunting, but it's actually a very exciting period for you, where you can start to imagine where you'll be in a couple of years' time and what all of your hard work is building up to at school or college. I'm Megan, I'll be your host today, and we'll be discussing how to choose the right university for you with 8 of the 24 Russell Group universities. As we move through the webinar today, we'll be meeting our panellists, and they're from Bristol University, the University of Glasgow, King's College London, the University of Manchester, Newcastle University, the Queen Mary University of London, Queen's University Belfast, and the University of York. Each panellist will talk you through a big question about researching universities, and we'll be taking questions from the audience to answer in a live session at the end too. So please do submit your questions into the Q&A button, which is just at the bottom of your screen. We'll be working through these throughout the webinar, and we'll also do some live at the end too. So anything you think of that you'd like to ask any of the universities, do submit your questions and we'll get back to you. I hope that lots of you are already registered to come along next week to meet the Russell Group, which is our big virtual event with all 24 Russell Group universities. We'll have a little bit more information about that later on in the webinar, and I'll also pop the link in the chat for any of you to sign up, or in the YouTube description if you're watching the recording on YouTube now as well. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to first go to Bristol and to Glenn, who's going to be talking to you about the benefits of going to university. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks, Megan. I mean, the benefits of going to university, not only am I the first person to speak representing 24 fantastic universities, I've also got what I think is the best question. I really could go on for so long. I'm going to try not to, though, because there really are so many benefits. I genuinely think there are almost as many benefits to university as there are people who've gone to university. It's a very personal thing whether you do want to go to university, and if so, what you want to study and where you choose to study it. Hopefully the event next week and today will help answer some of those questions, or at least start you thinking along the right lines. But it's incredibly personal. Things that probably characterize most people's times at university, and where the Russell Group really does come into its own, are the academic. If you've had the chance to sink your teeth in to get a bit of a good idea about what the subjects you're applying for look like at university, you're going to start to get excited. You're going to start to get excited about what you're studying, or about the career paths it will open up for you, the opportunities that it will gain. The Russell Group universities, as we're going to hear later, and hopefully you'll have a lot of chance to find out more about next week, are universities that are characterized by being research intensive. That means that much of the work that we do across all of the disciplines, from the arts and humanities to the social sciences, engineering, you name it, they're often work being done by academics who are the world leaders in their field. And this means quite literally the people teaching you often know more and are doing work that is progressing understanding in their field in a global context. They're solving big challenges, and they're doing really exciting work that feeds through even from your first year at university. You can be involved in that, you can be close to the people doing that work. And that's incredibly exciting and really fun. Because of that kind of clout, that reputation, the sort of influence that level of quality academic research leads, it often means that they are universities that have really great facilities. They have great teaching spaces. They often have a really good teaching ratio, and it means that you get opportunities that sometimes aren't available at other universities. These are opportunities to get work experience, to get placements, to do summerships, internships, internships. Summership sounds great though. I'd love to be on a summership right now. But also career they meet. And that certainly does include the academics, and it includes researchers, but it's also the friends you're going to make. When you get to university, whether you're studying in the same city you live in or whether you move somewhere new. It's just astonishing how many people you can meet who share your interests, who share your passions. And these could be intellectual, academic, or they could be completely not. You could be involved in sports societies, in social clubs and societies. At Bristol, there's over 400 of them, and they go from cheese, dog appreciation, whiskey appreciation, to Quidditch and sailing and rowing and cheerleading is something I always forget, but my one of my student ambassadors is so proud that they're captain of the university cheerleading team and that Bristol won the Bucks League. It's just endless the ways in which you can engage with other people. There are also societies and clubs that are centered around where in the world you come from, where in the world you'd like to go, your ethnicity, your religion, your language, the cultures that you're interested in, food, you name it. There are ways that you can meet, connect, and become good friends with people who share your interests. And that's probably one of the most exciting things that you're going to get. I know very few people who've been to university and haven't loved it. And I know very few people who wouldn't say that the university they ended up at was exactly the right one for them and it was brilliant. But that said, where you're at, particularly now when it's all the research and the exploration has to be virtual, it's a really good idea to start to think about what kind of stuff is going to really make the difference for you. Is it going to be about the reputation of the institution for the career doors it opens? Is it about the academics and their subject interests? Is it going to be about the societies? Do you fancy a city or a campus? These are the kind of things that you're going to start to look into over the next few months before you apply later at the beginning of year 13. And so welcome to today's event. We really look forward to meeting you, answering your questions today and meeting you next week at the event. And best of luck with figuring out which university is right for you. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you very much, Glenn. That was a lovely introduction. We do hope that you'll choose to come to university. It's a really great experience, and we're all here just to tell you exactly how you can go into researching that today. Next up, we have Gavin from the University of Glasgow, and he's going to talk about why you should consider a Russell Group.
Thanks for that, Megan. And hi, everyone. I'm Gavin from Glasgow, and I'm probably going to echo quite a lot of what Glenn was saying there about getting excited for studying the subjects that you want to do and the places that you want to do it as well. Essentially, what the Russell Groups are and why you should study at them. It comes down to the fact that the Russell Groups is this collection of 24 research-intensive universities across the United Kingdom. And these institutions are at the forefront of making new change in the country. And it's such an exciting place to be in these universities. There are places where change and developments are part of the culture and it's part of what you learn in your time at university. So a very exciting place to be and a really useful place to be for your career. Now, when it comes, we say about having all this research, you might be thinking, I'm just going to go to university for my degree. I'm not thinking about doing like postgrad research or anything. I just want to do my degree. But the fact of the matter is, whatever you're doing at your university, the people teaching you may be the researchers themselves. They might be learning new science, new developments in any area that you want to study. And this has an amazing impact on what you're learning. You are learning from people who are essentially coming up with this new stuff, this new exciting things that the world hasn't seen yet. So you're really working alongside some of the best minds in your area, which is really quite useful for going forward in your career. And then when we're talking about the best minds using the best facilities, if they are coming at the forefront of their fields, they'll be using fantastic facilities, and that's exactly where you're going to be learning as well. So these powerhouses, the UK Russell Group, being these kind of huge big powerhouses of research, have those facilities there for you and they're waiting for you to go there and try out. And as Glenn was saying, get that excited for these places. It's so important because you will be getting to play about with fantastic machinery, fantastic resources, fantastic people, and it really makes your subject come to life. And when we talk about research, the research you might think of in your mind is all scientific, people wearing lab coats, but it's not always that way. You can have research in the arts, the humanities, the social sciences as well. Like I know from like at Glasgow right now would have amazing research into the kind of slave trade and how that affected the United Kingdom. And so it's not all lab coats and science. It can be anything that you really want it to be. But this research power is absolutely enormous. And it comes from, yes, these universities have fantastic funding towards research as well. So whatever area you want to get into, there's probably good funding coming for it from external and from the universities themselves. And overall, these universities, these 24 across the United Kingdom, I think they inject something in the region of 87 billion into the UK economy, which is an absolutely staggering amount of money. And that's roughly the same amount of money that I think Luxembourg has as its GDP. So an incredible amount of money. Not all that goes to research, of course, it goes to running the universities, but it just shows you just how a huge part of the United Kingdom these Russell groups are. And when I was talking about the employability and why that is so good, a lot of people who have gone to these Russell Group institutions have then gone on and worked for these huge global companies, gone across the world and really shared their knowledge and formed new companies to make this practical change. So they might want to then employ people from similar universities of similar mindsets to try and improve their company and increase their ranks in their company. That is something you probably hear a lot of employers will kind of really want to employ people who went to Russell Group institutions. And yes, that is sometimes the case. But a lot of employers also won't look to see if you're from a Russell Group, but what they will look to see are you used to being in an environment of change, and are you used to finding out, being at the forefront of your industry? And being at a Russell Group institution will instill that in you. So yes, you've got the stamp of being at a Russell Group, but you've also got it within your capabilities of being able to feel comfortable in a changing world, which we're living in right now. You're here watching us today on a computer on Zoom, which is something that you might have seen at a big Ucas fair or UK Uni webinar or something, or a physical thing in the past, but now you're here on the virtual platform. So change is happening all around us. These Russell Group universities have been used to change and been creating change for many years now. So that's something we're going to be looking forward to in the future as well. But these kind of, because we have all this change going on right now, we know what's happening, we know it's going to continue to happen. Being at a Russell Group institution where we're so used to it, we have the facilities, we have the great minds, we have the alumni, and we have the fantastic people like yourself who are going to be hopefully thinking about studying at Russell Group institutions. We are exciting places to be, we're right at the cutting edge, and we are really fantastic places to consider studying at. So hopefully you guys are interested in improving the world around us and improving the climate and the global climate in all senses. And that is something that is both important and essentially required in the world we live in today. So hopefully that's going to give you an idea of why you should study at universities in the Russell Groups in the UK. And I'll pass back over to Megan. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Next up, we are going to be talking to Angela from King's College London, and she's going to be talking to you about how important league tables are and which ones are the best. Thank
Hi,
you,
everyone.
Angela.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today. So this is an interesting question. So there are very varying, I should say, league tables out there. And so I guess, you know, how important they are and which ones are the best is quite a broad kind of question. So there are different league tables. So ones from The Guardian, Times Higher Education, Complete University Guide, QSs, and the list goes on. And what you'll find is each of these league tables takes different aspects of university experience and teaching into consideration. So what some of them you'll find that will put more emphasis on, say, student experience, and others might put more emphasis on research or graduate employability. And so there's no one size fits all with league tables. So if you're considering taking whatever league table you're looking at as gospel, you really need to kind of just look behind, I guess, the methodology of how the rankings fit, because one university might be ranked higher in one league table versus another. So it's really important to just take it with a pinch of salt and really use that as part of your overall research into which university you're interested in and into the courses as well. So what you've got overall rankings of universities, but you've also got subject rankings too. And the subject rankings might give you a bit more insight into the different sort of courses and subject areas that you're interested in. And then you might be able to sort of look into that in a bit more closer detail. But again, like I said, each league table takes, puts the emphasis into different areas. So it's really difficult to kind of compare one with the other. So I don't think that there's the best league table out there, or, you know, one is better than the other. It's just looking at them holistically, really, as part of your research into what you want to do at university. And so the Russell Group universities all feature in there. Every university features in the league tables. And so really, I mean, majority of our Russell Group partners will be ranked fairly highly in that, if that's something that you're looking at. But again, just dig a little bit deeper to understand, you know, what it is that you're looking for, to see which university is the right fit for you. I could notice a few questions in the questions box about, you know, how do I pick? And it's very, there's a lot to go into that, and I'm sure we'll answer some of these questions as well live. So yes, it's all about investigating, having a look and comparing that with what really makes it important for you. So what aspects of a course or a university are you looking for and to get involved in? And so it's kind of marrying that up together. It's really, and then ultimately, once you have all that information, it's kind of up to you to sort of take that and sort of say, how important do I want, how much emphasis do I want to see on these league tables with all the other components of my research that I'm doing in terms of picking a course or a university. So I think it's it marries up. So don't just use the league tables as your one-stop shop for research. It's kind of, it's more broader than that. Yes, so the other thing I just wanted to highlight again, I think it's kind of, I've already mentioned about they use different sort of methodologies, but again, just double check to see what it is that they're putting the emphasis on. So if it's research and that's something that you're really interested in and you really want to sort of delve into that, great, that's fantastic. If some of them might highlight more social impact as well, so that might be very important for you. So just double check that. About teaching and student satisfaction, you know, there's all different elements in there that that you can take into consideration. So yes, I guess there isn't a real full answer really I could give you, or an exact to say this is the league table you should be looking at, or this is what you really, you know, you should dismiss everything else. It's actually quite personal, and I think my advice really is to just take a look at all the league tables if that's something that is important to you, and just review it amongst everything else that you're doing while you're doing your research, really. I think that's all I can say about league tables.
That was perfect. Thank you very much, Angela. Next up, we're going to be talking to Laura from the University of Manchester. This is a question we've already seen a lot coming up during the Q&A, so make sure to listen to Laura if you're interested in this. She's going to be talking about entry requirements and if it's all that important that you meet them when applying. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. So when it comes to looking at entry requirements, they are important. It is important to meet them. However, all universities understand that this year there's a lot of anxiety, and universities will be as flexible as possible, particularly given the circumstances. So entry requirements come in different ways. There's obviously level 3 qualifications such as A levels and BTEC qualifications. All universities will list their entry requirements on their course profiles, and you'll also find these on Ucas websites as well. But my advice would be to also look at GCSE requirements too. So the A level and equivalent level 3 qualifications will be listed, and they'll often include subject specific requirements if there are any as well. So for some subjects such as engineering, you may need maths and physics at A level. There may be a maths component for computer science, for example. There may be certain subject requirements that are needed to study and access particular courses. However, some courses just ask for particular grades, so it could be 2 A's and a B, for example, or the equivalent of the level 3 qualifications. But don't neglect the GCSE requirements as well. Do double check whether there are specific requirements that are being asked for. Now, in terms of this year in particular, if you do miss your grades, universities will try and be as flexible as possible. Do remember that there is clearing as well. So clearing is where universities advertise any vacancies that are available. When it comes to things like the extended project qualification, I've seen that that's been in the chat a bit today. The extended project qualification is an additional qualification and isn't usually taken into account when you are made an offer. However, we do really recommend including that in your personal statement and referring to what the topic of your EPQ was, what you learned from it, how you benefited from taking it alongside your A-levels. And whilst it won't be part of the formal offer, it'll show your commitment to the subject that you're interested in, and it'll be a really great addition to your overall application. Other things to take into account when it comes to entry requirements are any additional tests, for example, like the Ucas or the BMAT for medicine and dentistry courses. So there may be other entry requirements that will be considered alongside your A-level results. So worth, again, looking on each individual course page and finding out what other entry requirements are taken into consideration. Ucas is definitely the sort of one-stop shop, and it's the best place to go to get an idea of different courses in the entry requirements, but also individual university web pages as well, because you will find out about the application and selection process in addition to entry requirements on each of the course profiles. And do talk to current students as well via different platforms. You know, we've all had to change and move online, so speak to students and talk to them about how what their grades were and how they found kind of applying and accessing university and what grade profile they offered as well. There are other things to take into consideration as well. So universities will take contextual data into account and perhaps look at your postcode and school performance, and whether or not there's other circumstances, such as if you spent some time in care. And in that case, there may be a lower offer, so something called a contextual offer. And again, that will be listed on university websites. So if you meet certain criteria, there can be access schemes as well, and so access schemes linked to universities that provide a supported progression into a particular university after you've completed a series of tasks and some work to kind of earn that lower offer and take part in that scheme. So yes, entry requirements are important. This year, universities do understand the anxiety around it and will look to, in some cases, if you don't miss your, if you do miss your grades, they may look at alternate courses that they can offer you as an alternative. But it's great that you're attending an event such as this today, because by doing your research early and finding out what entry requirements are associated with particular courses, it means you're as informed as possible and you're really aware of both the level 3 qualification requirements and any other requirements such as GCSEs, EPQ and additional admissions tests too.
Perfect, thank you very much, Laura. And next up, we're going to be looking at another important topic, which is how to look at courses and choose between courses that have the same degree title. And Andrew from Newcastle University is going to be talking you through that. Thank you, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for that, Megan. So yeah, like Megan said, I'm going to be talking about how you look at different degrees that have got the same title. And you know, you need to be aware that not all degrees are created equally. So you might look at something like, if you're considering history or English language or something like that, a course that a lot of universities will offer, both within the Russell Group and without. They're not all the same. So there's already been talk about things like league tables that you might want to look at. It's course specific, but it's not even just about determining which is the best course, for want of a better term. You need to look at everything that goes into that course and how it's going to work for you. One of the most important things you can do is to actually research the modules that you'll be learning within that course. So most universities give the opportunity to do that on the website. You can drill down into what the compulsory modules are, so what everyone doing that course will have to study, but also what the optional modules are as well, so how you can shape that degree into what you're wanting to study and what your interests are. And you need to be aware that not every university will offer the same modules within the same course. So if you're really interested in a particular area of your subject, it's really important to make sure that that's actually something that will be covered at all, but will also give you the opportunity to go into the depth that you want to with it as well. Outside of the actual content, have a look at how it's taught and how it's assessed. Again, that information is usually available on university websites, on the course-specific websites. If you know you're really strong in terms of your learning in a particular style, or if you always do better in assessments that are coursework based rather than exam based, for example, these are things that you might want to take into account, again, because different universities do things differently in terms of how they teach the course, how they assess the course, and it's really important that you look at how that fits with your own personal preferences and personal strengths. Something else you might want to have a look at: does the course offer a year studying abroad or a semester abroad? Does it offer a year's work placement as part of the course? Is that something that's important to you? If it is, it's obviously really important that you take a course that gives you that opportunity. Some courses will have that, as fixed as part of what they offer. Everyone who studies that course at that institution will have the opportunity. Others you might have to apply for. It may be based on your performance in terms of how your grades are in your first year and things like that. So if that is something that's important to you, you're really keen to do that year's work placement, or you want to spend a year abroad, have a look at what the opportunities are at that course, at that institution, and do your research in advance, because you don't want to arrive at a university in your first year hoping to spend a semester abroad, a year abroad, and find that that's not going to be available on the particular course that you've chosen. Something you might want to think about is the facilities and things that are going to be available to you. There's already been talk about the fact that the research within the Russell Group is really leading the field in a lot of senses, and that quite often comes with fantastic facilities as well that'll be available to you. But make sure you have a look at what's available for your course, and again, what's important to you. That can be really significant if you're looking at a course like music, for example. What sort of rehearsal studios are available to you? What sort of facilities can you use? If you're looking at a course that's maybe quite specific in terms of what you'd be studying, so like marine sciences or marine biology, have a look at what facilities are available to you there. How much of it's going to be hands-on practical work, or how much of it's just going to be theory-based that you could be doing anywhere, really. Something else that's really important for some courses is have a look at accreditation. So not all courses are created equally. If you're wanting to go into to work in a particular field, so take psychology, for example, if you're wanting to go on to be a psychologist, it's really important that you look at, the course you're studying, is it properly accredited? Does it give you those building blocks to go into the direction that you want to? Because if if it doesn't, then you will have to go and potentially do additional qualifications or go back and do other bits on top of it as well. So it's really important that you take all of that into account and make sure it fits for what your long-term goals are. But I think the biggest thing that we would always usually suggest it in sort of situations like this, and it's much more difficult this year, is to try and speak to current students. Now, under normal circumstances, you'd be able to attend an open day, there'd be current students working as student ambassadors, you'd have a chance to speak to people about what it's like to study there generally, but also what it's like to study specific courses. Now, that obviously is harder to do in person this year, or impossible to do in person, quite possibly, depending on how the rest of the year goes. But there are options to do that online. So there are platforms like UniBuddy and things that you can use that, where a lot of universities will be able to direct you to speak directly to their own students, and you'll be able to choose your course you're interested in. If you're thinking of studying law and you want to speak to a law student, that is something that is quite often an option. Just speak to universities, have a look through their websites, look for platforms like UniBuddy, and try and speak directly to students and ask them about the things that you're interested in and that are relevant to you. And that will help you choose the right course that you want. Even if you're already set on a subject, there's lots of different ways that you can make sure you choose the right course within that subject. So I think that's everything from me, Megan.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. Next up, we are going on to our sixth panellist, and that is Anam from Queen Mary University of London. And they're going to be discussing what the difference is between a campus and a city university, and if that should matter to you when you're choosing.
Right. Thank you, Megan. Welcome, everyone. I hope you find these sessions really useful. So I want to talk to you guys about looking at your accommodation options. One of the biggest parts of going to university is about the university experience itself. Now, for many of you, you may be thinking about flying the nest. You know, this is your chance to escape your home, leave mom and dad, and go and gain that independence yourself. So you'll be thinking about your accommodation options. So one of the things you'll come across whilst you're doing your research is whether or not you should be maybe going to a university in the city, or maybe looking for something more campus-based where everything is in one place. Whatever you choose, it's really important that you really do your research. There's no essential right or wrong answer whether a campus-based university is better than a city-based university or vice versa. Rather, it's really important that you focus on what's best for you. So you need to think about what you should be prioritizing, and most importantly, what sort of university experience you're after. So those of you who might not be aware, campus university essentially consists of everything being in one place. So for example, Queen Mary's Mile End campus is like a small village where you have your accommodation, you've got shops, you've got the restaurants and cafes there, you've got your gyms and sports facilities in one place, you've got the student union bar, you've got banks, laundrettes, etc. Everything is in one place. Whereas if you look at maybe a city university, it has buildings all around the city, so not everything maybe is in one place. So you may have to walk from one street to another street, maybe to attend your classes or to maybe access the library facilities. But people's views on the two different types of universities differ because some people prefer everything to be on their doorstep as it's easier to navigate, and the campus generally has a sort of vibe or an atmosphere to it. But on the other hand, being at a university in the middle of a city can be really fun because you get to experience a whole new city, different cultures, and essentially you have more choice. But the key things that you need to think about when assessing what's best for you is a few important factors. So maybe a community feel is something that's really important to you. Maybe that's something that you're really looking for. So universities that are campus-based tend to ensure that you have everything available to you on your doorstep, so that you never feel as though you have to leave the university campus. So as well as ease of access, campus-based universities offer that convenience, that all your classes are in the same place, and you rarely have an excuse to be late for your classes. If you want to wake up one morning in your gym jams, walk in with a bowl of cereal, maybe that's something that really appeals to you. The other thing which a lot of people really think about, especially when they're moving away from home, is safety. And that's one of the most important factors when it comes to your student life at university. This is, I guess, more the case when you're looking at moving to a big city like London or Birmingham, for example. So being on the campus usually means, you have 24-hour security on site, and these are some of the things that you might look into when you go on an open day, hopefully when things get back to normal and you can actually physically go there, or maybe you do virtual tours. But that may give you a more sense of security because everything is on one campus, everything's on one site, and you don't need to worry too much about going out to the shops and having to worry about anything at all. So having that reliance on a campus-based environment really puts you at ease, and probably puts your parents at ease too when they think about you moving away. The other thing to think about is the sort of lifestyle you might be after. For some people, the opportunity to go to a big city provides, that sort of social element that a lot of people are after. So if you're looking to have a lot of fun, you're looking for a lot of choice, different places to go to, then the city very much provides that opportunity. But if you want something more quieter, you're maybe more focused about maybe your studies, and you don't want too many distractions because that could be something which you really need to manage once you become a student, then the campus lifestyle gives you that experience. It allows students to focus and have everything in one place, so they don't need to worry about making plans because everything's pretty much at hand. And campus allows students not to have to deal with maybe busy traffic, or moving from one session to another, roadworks, all these sorts of things. But in terms of living in the city, you get greater choice. And I think those are the things which really are a great plus. Living in a big city with a university that has a campus especially allows unlimited choices for socializing, for transport links, for shopping, for example, and many other things. But as well as this, university campus will be more geared towards the student market. So meaning that you won't have to go too far to find what you need, and you'll have plenty of options and choices in doing so. And also the atmosphere, when you're thinking about going to university, a campus-based environment sort of breeds that atmosphere of kind of a closeness, togetherness, feeling that there are other people there to support you. When you move away from home, that's one of the things a lot of students have to deal with is potentially getting lonely or being homesick. But being part of a community, a close-knit community, really allows you to make new friends and socialize together and have similar interests as well. So those are just some of the things that you really might want to consider. At Queen Mary, we have the best of both worlds, and we're quite lucky in the fact that we are one of the few campus-based universities in central London. So we get the best of both worlds. You get the campus feeling, but with the ease of access to central London. But the campus, is quite small, so you get that really nice community feel. But you also have the opportunity to go to larger campuses. So universities such as Nottingham or Birmingham, for example, can feel like a whole town or city in and of themselves, and they're much more secluded compared to maybe, say, parts of London, and that may appeal to some more than others. So there's a lot there to really think about in terms of what's best for you. It could be that you're a commuter student. So if you're a commuter student and you'd be maybe traveling to university from home, then you need to maybe think about the facilities at the university that may become more important to you. So do your research, obviously try and check out virtual campus tours, and hopefully in the coming months, if things ease, you'll be able to go in person and check out campuses too. Back to you, Megan.
Thank you very much, Anam. Next up, we're going on to our 7th panellist out of 8 today, and this is Matt. Matt is from Queen's University Belfast, which is actually the only member of the Russell Group in Northern Ireland. So if you are interested in going overseas, or if you are in Northern Ireland, then definitely make sure to have a chat to Matt, submit some questions and listen to what he has to say. How important are the facilities at universities, and what should I be looking for? Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Megan. So in terms of how important are the facilities, I think it's a really important part of which university you might choose to pick. It's important to point out as well, as several other people have already said, that universities and courses are all different. And this is going to be the first time really that you're going to have that choice of where you might want to study. And it might be that complete choice for the first time. So you went to the school that was near your parents' house, or you went to college that was convenient, or you went to a sixth form that was attached to your school. Whereas when you're picking your university, you can go to a university anywhere within the UK. So you do have lots of options. And one of the ways that you can start to narrow down those options is to look at universities and look at how they are different within those facilities. Universities can spend their income on whichever facilities they choose to do so. So it's really important that you do look at the differences between University X and University Y, and see where that money's gone and where you're going to be getting the benefit from your tuition fees. And I personally split it into 2 different types of facilities. I'd look at the general university facilities, and then I'd look at the course-specific facilities as well. So in terms of the student services that you need to be considering when you're looking at facilities at university, things like the wellbeing support, things like disability support, things like the sports facilities that are at each individual university. If sports is a really big part of your life and it's something that you want to continue at university, then it's absolutely right to look at those facilities and to think, do they have 4G pitches, do they have swimming pools? Because if that's important to you, then it should be important, it should factor into that decision making process. But you can also take it another step further and think about not only the actual facilities in terms of a pool or a pitch, do they offer scholarships that are relevant to you? So again, we offer sports scholarships here at Queen's. We also offer scholarships for students coming from GB across Northern Ireland. So there's lots of those different types of facilities that are sort of university-wide, but then also look at the accommodation. So lots of accommodations at lots of different universities are all different prices, and what you get for that money is considerably different. So Northern Ireland's got the lowest cost of student living. When you look at the accommodation, that's reflected in that. And is it look at things like, is it university owned? What's the distance from the university to the accommodation? Some universities' accommodation might be a bus journey away from the university that you need to get on. Think about how old it is, what's included in the price as well. Lots of university accommodation now include things like contents insurance, include your Wi-Fi, but if they don't, then you need to be aware of that so that you can make those sort of adjustments and budget for it. And also think about things like contract lengths. So some of your courses might need summer accommodation. You know, if you're doing nursing, for example, and you need to be on placements over summer, is it possible for you to rent a room or the same room in that accommodation so you don't have to scramble and find somewhere short term over the summer? And these are all things that you can consider. And as Anam pointed out there, think about things like parking as well. So if you are a commuting student, are you going to go to a city centre university, for example, where there's no parking or parking is very expensive? Or actually would a campus university that's close by give you an option of more parking, for example? So they're the sort of student services and university-wide facilities that are really important. But what I would really recommend is look at the course facilities that are going to be really important to you. So things like the buildings, how new the buildings, how suitable to your course are they, and look at the specific facilities on your course. You know, when we do get the opportunity to have you on campus and you're getting campus tours, make sure you're asking whether, you know, if you're shown a science lab, is this the science lab that you're going to be working in? Or is it a science lab that only master's students can use or only PhD students can use? So definitely make sure that you're looking into and asking those questions of, is this the lab that is used on my course? And if not, ask to look at it. You know, we're all here to help you make that decision. So we'll be able to point you in the right direction. For example, at Queen's University, we've got a biosciences building, which is the newest on campus. So there's 5 floors of state-of-the-art teaching facilities within that building that give you the opportunity to look in different labs, but also look at the downtime within those areas. Because it's fantastic that a university that you're looking at might have a brilliant law building and the law facilities might be fantastic and that building might be brand new. Actually, if you're studying sciences, for example, you might never go in that building. So you need to look at the buildings that are relevant to you and look at the opportunities there. And a really good sort of barometer on a university that you can apply and compare to each different one that you look at is the library. You know, libraries at university shouldn't be old dusty buildings that are really dark and you have to be dead quiet when you go into them. There should be a range of different resources within there. So at Queen's, it's the Macleay Library. Over 10,000 students a day use it during term time. And it's not dark and stuffy, but it's bright and airy to allow you to study. There's a mix of quiet study areas where you can focus and you can read and you can do your work. But there are also group areas where you can get together and discuss things. There's computer labs, there's technical areas. So these are all things that you can consider and look at the university library as almost like a bit of a barometer of what a good university might be for you. But it's also really important that whichever university facilities you look at, they are facilities that make you feel comfortable. They make you feel like you're going to be welcome there. And obviously the best way to find that out is to visit on open days. I know that's really difficult at the minute, but hopefully at some stage this year you might be able to visit universities. But if you can't, what I would recommend is definitely use the virtual tools that most universities have got available now, like virtual campus tours, or visit individual universities for their online sessions and webinars. But definitely register interest for campus tours if you can as well. So I think I'll pass you back over to Megan now.
That was great. Thank you very much, Matt. I definitely agree about the libraries. I was a history student at university and spent a lot of time in the library. So definitely have a look at those on virtual campus tours and see what you like. And lastly, we're going to be going to York and we're going to be talking to Vicky. Vicky's going to be giving you some practical tips for how to start looking at courses and how to narrow down your options. Thank you, Vicky.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. So hopefully you've received lots of really useful information today. And I am going to echo quite a lot of what everyone else has said, but hopefully give you some more useful tips and advice. So we understand that choosing a course and choosing a university can be quite daunting for students, and there's lots of options out there. There's thousands of courses available and hundreds of universities to choose from across the UK. So what we want to make sure is that you narrow down these options and make it much less stressful for when you come to apply via Ucas. And there's kind of lots of ways that you can do that if you start your research early. So I'm mainly going to kind of involve talking around doing some independent research, and I do really emphasise to start doing your research early and not leaving everything till the last minute. Ucas deadlines do tend to come around quite quickly once applications open, so that's why we emphasise to start doing things early and kind of be as best prepared as you can. So the kind of first thing to think about is think about the type of course that you want to study. So think about perhaps what you enjoy studying, what you're interested in, or perhaps what you excel at or you're good at school. Also think about the subjects that you're currently studying, whether at A-level or something different, and if these match the entry requirements of the course that you want to go on to. Teachers are also a really good source of advice and information, and they can offer you some great support and insight into whether they think that that course would be a right fit for you. Also, some students do have a clear kind of career path in mind, but other students don't, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need to know what you want to be doing in 3 or 4 years' time. But if you do have a specific kind of career aspiration or a career path that you want to follow, then make sure that you research into that, because some career pathways you need to have studied a particular qualification or a particular degree. So that's specifically subjects such as if you want to go into veterinary science, if you want to go into medicine, dentistry, they all require very specialist subjects. Also, you might want to consider doing what we call a joint honours degree, where you study 2 subjects side by side, and it gives you a bit more breadth across 2 different fields. The next kind of thing is, once you've narrowed down your subject choices and perhaps you've found what course you want to study, is comparing these across universities. So courses are offered at various universities across the UK, and they may have the same subject name or the same Ucas code. However, they will not be exactly the same at any 2 universities. So, for instance, history is widely available across the UK at a variety of institutions, but the content of that history course will differ dramatically between the universities. So kind of what we emphasise here is to make sure you do research kind of at the course content and a modular level. So look at the modules that you're likely to be studying or you're likely to be taught, look at the academic expertise within the department, and make sure that aligns with your interests and what you want to get out of that subject and that course. So there's great ways that you can do that. You can do that on Discover Uni. You can also have a look on individual university websites, where we'll often list the modules that we will offer. My kind of top tip here though is kind of don't pick a course based on a module that's offered in the 3rd year, because modules can change quite frequently, often due to academic expertise, but it can give you a really good insight into kind of the course content and what's on offer. So once you've narrowed down your course choice, you then need to think about the university that you want to study at. And depending on the course that you choose, this might limit the universities that are available to you in order of where you can study. So things that you need to be thinking about here are thinking about how far away from home you want to be. Do you want to be at a campus or a city university? What kind of facilities do you want on offer? What societies or sports are on offer? All of these things are really worth thinking about. Think of the expense of the area as well. Also think about whether study abroad or placement options are available as part of the course, because again, that might be important to you. And again, just a really important thing which has been echoed by lots of people here today is just attend any events that you can. At the moment, they're obviously online and virtually, but they're still a really great way to get lots of information about courses and about universities. Many universities also offer UniBuddy, which is a peer-to-peer engagement platform where you can speak to students and they'll give you their honest opinion of what they feel about the course and what they feel about the university. So many universities are also replicating open days, but in an online setting. And again, here you can speak to academics, you can speak to support staff, you can speak to students, and it's a really great way to get a feel for the university. And also think about people around you. So you probably know someone who's been to university. So whether that's friends, family, it could be teachers, and get their advice on different universities as well. The main point to emphasise here is that ultimately it's your choice of where you want to study and what you want to study, and you'll be spending at least the next 3 years at university. So we want to make sure that it's the right fit for you and it's somewhere where you can see yourself spending a significant amount of time. And that's everything from me, so I'll hand back to you, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vicky. I was actually a student at York a few years ago, and a big part of why I chose the York course was actually to do with the course content like Vicky discussed. So it's really important to look at the course, look at how you're going to be assessed, because I didn't like exams very much, but York had a lot of coursework and essay-based options, which is another reason why I chose to go for that. So definitely have a look at the course if you know what you're interested in. And it's a really great way to help to narrow down where you want to go and make these decisions a little bit easier, because there is a lot of choice, we understand that. But I hope that this webinar today has helped you to start to think about how to narrow things down. Before we answer some of your questions, and we've had so many questions today, so thank you so much for submitting those. We also wanted to use the webinar today to give you some more details about Meet the Russell Group. And that's our virtual event taking place next week, Wednesday the 10th of February, and that'll be open between 12 noon and 7 p.m. So you're welcome to log in at any time throughout the day. There'll be live webinars going on just like this one. I understand quite a lot of you in the comments today have asked if there's going to be any Oxbridge webinars or if other universities in the Russell Group would be attending. All of them are going to be there, and all of them are going to be doing webinars. We will have an Oxbridge webinar taking place. There will also be webinars about student life, about how to apply for bursaries, about how to put together a constructive application and personal statement advice. So it really is an amazing opportunity for you to get a lot of information all in one place, completely free. It's a really fun event to take part in. There's lots of engagement, and you'll also be able to chat with representatives like all of the lovely staff who've been here on this webinar today. There'll be lots more of them at the event, as well as student ambassadors. So do come along. I've put the link in the chat, and it will also be in the YouTube description if you're watching on the catch up. The link is russellgroup.vfairs.com. Very nice and short, simple one. If you head there, you'll also be able to see the webinar timetable and learn a little bit more about who the Russell Group are. I know a couple of you have asked today, who are the Russell Group universities? You can check that out and have a little bit of a look in advance to see who you'd like to talk to and what kind of questions you'd like to ask. Okay, so let's crack on with some questions. Where it's approaching 1, so what we're going to do is we're going to ask each of our panelists a question, and if your question hasn't been answered, then definitely come along next week, and you'll have 7 hours to ask a question, so we'd love to see you there. We're going to go in the same order as we went for the presentations. So we will start with Glenn from Bristol, one that's come up a lot today, Glenn. Will I have to have an interview alongside my application, and can I tell whether I'll be interviewed for a specific course before I apply?
Really great question, and it's 100% something you can know before you decide which course and university you're going to apply for. It varies enormously. Oxford and Cambridge, which are obviously Russell Group institutions, tend to interview for everything. Many institutions like Bristol will only interview for specific courses like medicine, but that could also come into play for certain engineering courses, for arts, and courses where they might want to see your portfolio. So it does vary both from course to course and from university to university. My advice would absolutely be to look at the specific course page on a university's website. That course page will tell you what the entry requirements are, GCSE A level or IB or equivalent. It will also tell you how the course is taught, how it's assessed, and importantly, what the process is of being considered for an offer. If it's not clear, we all have big teams of people who work very closely with the admissions teams who are able to answer these questions. And I know it sounds like a daft thing to say, but it's kind of worth saying that you cannot mess up a future application by asking a question. Yeah, there is no blacklist of, oh, I tell you what, if that Megan applies, she asked a really dumb question, reject her immediately. That does not happen. So you absolutely should be able to tell if you'll be interviewed, and if so, what it will look like. And if that isn't obvious to you, then just pick a uni that feels about right and email them, and they'll tell you. If you've got a specific short list of unis, so much the better. Email all of them and they will tell you exactly what to face.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Glenn. Next up, one for Gavin from the University of Bristol. I know that medical courses are really competitive. We've seen a huge rise in applications to study medicine, maybe as a result of the pandemic, who knows? Do you have any advice on choosing medical courses, and what should I include in my application?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one of the ones that also we've in the presentations there we've had covered, like looking at league tables, and that is one of the ways you can look for good medical courses around the UK. But it's not only down to the kind of the rankings on these league tables. Different universities will teach medicine in different ways, so make sure you're looking for the university that will teach it in a way that's the way you want to learn. Some are a bit more hands-on, some are a bit more lecture-based, so that does make a big difference when it comes to it. Now, when you're thinking about your application side of things, yes, applying to medicine is an absolute minefield, lots and lots to consider. Lots of universities who offer medicine have obviously been aware of the current situation, where in past we would maybe have liked to see some work experience working in a clinical setting. This year has just not been possible for that to happen. So I know at the University of Glasgow we have kind of made some slight changes to that rule, and looking to see that as long as you've kind of got a good idea of the course and what it entails, that's the kind of stuff we're going to want to see. That will differ from university to university, so make sure you check out in each institution's own process on that. But what we would like to see is someone who, obviously right now, they kind of imagine your loved one was to fall ill and you had to go into hospital and you met a doctor. You would like them to be personable, knowledgeable, and as well as just kind of a good person. And these are the kind of qualities we like to see in these applications. So showing that you're even dexterous with your hands can even show that you maybe operate well as a good surgeon. So even if you're like good at violin, or you love your kind of art in any way, shape or form, that can also be quite useful. But just telling us these things, just listing off, oh, I can play the violin and I can sculpt things out of clay, isn't enough for us. We would like to see how that can translate into being such a good candidate to apply to medicine. So we do like to see the full package of a good person when applying to medicine. But best advice for that is checking out each institution's information on their websites. They are really quite good. They're normally quite good for giving you lots of info on that. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much, Gavin. Next up, one for Angela from King's College London. How many options can I choose on my Ucas application, and how do you recommend filling these up?
Yeah, that's a good question. So generally, you have 5 choices. So, and essentially what happens is you tend to kind of choose courses that are similar in, similar to what you want to study. So it could be a business management as an example. You might choose a couple of those from different universities, and maybe like international development or something like that. But essentially so you've got 5 choices, and so that's quite, to narrow down all the different universities is quite challenging. But like a good sort of tip for us really is what we sort of tend to give to our students when they come into one of our events, is we sort of say, okay, well, if you know your predicted grades, you can choose a course that sort of meets your predicted grades, and then you have sort of aspirational choices and then safe sort of choices. And so you might want to choose a couple of courses that maybe are 1 and 2 grades higher, because you never know, you might actually, exceed your predicted grades, which happens all the time. And then you've got a couple of other safer options. So in case it doesn't go according to plan, and you might just have, 1 or 2 that are less, like below your predicted grades. So it kind of gives you a buffer in terms of what options that you have available. And so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Now that does differ for medicine courses. So it's only 4 choices that you can make if you're interested in sort of medicine, dentistry and that sort of thing. So just double check that you're not sort of, just double check that that's what, you're doing. But that's kind of generally what you're looking at. The other, which is a bit slightly off, but if you can't make a choice between 2 courses, and so, I don't know, say one of it is geography and the other is computer science. I know they're completely different, but I think generally what we say is we try and try and find a common thread, because your personal statement has to cover all of those courses, right? So it's one personal statement for the 5 choices that you're making. And if they're so far away from each other that you just can't choose, but you really want to apply to both, we suggest that you actually reach out to the university and sort of see if they will accept a separate personal statement. Some universities do, some don't, and they may just do it on a case-by-case kind of basis. So it is another option to look into if you just can't quite narrow it down. But generally what it is that you're looking for common threads within those 5 courses that you want to apply for. So then your personal statement sort of fits across all those. So I think I kind of veered away a little bit on that one, but I just thought it would be useful information.
That was lovely. Thank you, Angela. Lots of great information there. So lots of the students on this call today, maybe right at the start of their university journey. We've had a few questions about what exactly is a personal statement and what to put in it. So if you'd like to cover that briefly, Laura, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think when it comes to a personal statement, it can be quite a strange thing to put together. The clue is in the name, so it is a personal statement. It's something that's personal to you. But it's often something that's quite difficult to start off. Like, how do you, if you've got a blank piece of paper, how do you start to structure it? So universities provide a lot of information, advice and guidance around this. And the structures that you can find online to have a short, snappy introduction and a short conclusion as well. And then the main focus of it being how you can demonstrate to admissions tutors that you have the skills, knowledge and experience to offer for a particular course. So a personal statement is sent to all your university choices. It's the same one, and it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate why you're a good fit for that particular course. So you can talk about your current study, you can talk about any hobbies and interests that you have, and then particularly think about how you can demonstrate your interest in the subject in other ways, not just through your study. So any work experience, which again we know is obviously really difficult at the moment, but any other extracurricular stuff that you do that might demonstrate your experience. There's a word limit to your personal statements, and it's usually around about a size of A4. It's often advised to kind of structure your personal statements where the main body of it is focusing on how you meet the criteria that's listed on university websites. So the skills and knowledge and experience that they're looking for in potential applicants. But remember, at this stage as well, you don't necessarily have those skills, knowledge and experience fully. This is about how you can show your the potential that you have to study at a higher education level. So you don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to know exactly what the course entails and what you'll be learning. It's how you can demonstrate from your current study and everything else you do your real interest and passion and understanding for a subject. So do visit the Ucas pages, and also universities often put on live webinars and have personal statement leaflets as well with advice and guidance on how to structure it, and have a think about what you want the admissions tutors to know. It's the only part of the application, the Ucas application, where you get a say and where you get to kind of express yourself in your own words. So have a think about what impression you want to leave on that admissions tutor, and make sure you have the course profiles up at the same time so you can ensure you're meeting those requirements that universities are asking for.
Perfect, thank you very much, Laura. So we've just got 4 questions left, so if you do need to go back to lessons, that's absolutely fine. This webinar will be available on YouTube. So what we'll do is everyone who's registered for the webinar, we will send you the link in a little while. It may be tomorrow morning, it may be later this afternoon, but you'll be able to come back and view it in your own time and check in on the questions if you missed any. Okay, so next up we are going for a question for Andrew from Newcastle University. And this is one that I've seen quite a lot in the chat, Andrew. Can I apply for 2 different courses at the same university?
Right, okay. So yes, you can. One thing to consider when you're looking at that is, you know, what's just been talked about there with personal statements. If you're applying for 2 very different courses, you need to be conscious of how, you know, your personal statement is going to reflect across those 2 different ones. If you're applying for similar ones, then it's a much more straightforward process, because the personal statement will lend itself very, very well to it. So, you know, business management was used as an example before. The personal statement for business management, it's not a huge leap to make one that would work for that and for, say, accounting and finance and things like that. So multiple applications at one university is absolutely fine. Obviously, if you're looking at, you know, 2 or 3 courses at one university, but then including some other universities as well, even if, you know, the one that you apply to 2 or 3 is your main first choice university that you want to go to, again, be very aware that your personal statement goes to all institutions that you've applied to for all of the courses. So don't be too specific about the city or the university that you want to go to, at the risk of sort of alienating the others that you're applying to as well. But yeah, in terms of the question itself, you can absolutely apply to more than one course at the same university.
Perfect, thank you very much, Andrew. Next up we have a question for Anand from Queen Mary University of London. This is one that, especially if students have already talked to student ambassadors, they might have encountered this before. A lot of people talk about having a feeling when they visit a university that it was the right one for them. They just felt it, they couldn't really explain it. How can students who aren't able to visit on open days find out more about unis and their facilities at the moment?
Yeah, great question. I think certainly with what we're going through at the moment, it's very difficult to obviously go in person to open days and visit universities, but absolutely spot on. A lot of people do say that, you know, they get a vibe, they get a feel once they're on site on the campus. But one of the ways in which we can counteract that virtually is that you'll find that a lot of universities now have created a lot of new content to deal with the virtual world. So there are a lot of options now to access virtual campus tours online. A lot of them are very unique. For example, at Queen Mary, we have a student who's on Zoom who follows through on campus, who's currently on site. And you can ask questions live as the tour is being run, as an example, so that you really feel as though you have everything answered in terms of things that you might see on campus. The other thing to do is to actually talk to students. It's probably the best thing you can do at the moment is, you know, speak to like-minded people who've been there and done that. Maybe last year they went through the same process that you're going through. So they'll be able to give you an insight into, you know, some of the benefits of the university and its facilities, maybe some of the disadvantages as well, things that you may wish to consider. Obviously, it's going to be a personal preference, but using the chat functions, I think a lot of universities are utilizing at the moment, both in terms of the Unibody platform as an example, as well as chat functions within university websites, is a great way to actually connect with other students and really find out from them what's going on. There's also a lot of options in regards to virtual open days. So you get to chat to teachers, to academics, to professional services department staff as well. So there are people as well who you can share that with. There's also many other platforms. UK Universities is one of those. The student room as well, where you can actually connect with other students from those universities that you're considering to find out more about the feel, the atmosphere and the vibe of the university.
That was a very full answer. That's fantastic, and lots of different options there for you if you are looking to have a little bit more of a research into universities and what they're like for the people who are already there. Next up, we are going to be talking to Matt from Queen's University Belfast. Matt, can I get in touch with lecturers and academics if I want to get a little bit more of an insight into the course, and how would I be able to do that?
Yeah, so every university is different in terms of how you get in touch with lecturers, academics, or what the process is to do that. So for example, at Queen's, what you can do is you can visit the individual course pages, and there are contact details within that course page. So for example, if you wanted to study English, you could go onto our website and search for the English course. Then on that page that talks about the subject, there'll be contact details, which will put you in touch with academics. The other way to go about it is to visit open days. I know, as everyone said several times, you know, it's been a disrupted year in terms of being able to visit campuses and visit open days. But at virtual open days, we do also have academics there that you'll be able to speak to and ask those questions to. It's actually really important to do that. You know, it's really important that if you're really interested in history, for example, and you want to study a certain area of history, and that university has a module on that, being able to speak to the academics about that and get a bit more interest in information will help you as well. So yeah, look on the course pages and there'll mostly be contacts available there. Look at live chats on the website, and also visit virtual open days or real life open days, fingers crossed, at some stage in the future.
Perfect, thank you very much, Matt. And now on to our last question. This is for Vicky from the University of York, and they get a lot of applications, so you need to make sure you put together a competitive application. What extracurriculars or activities can students be doing now to make themselves more attractive?
Thanks, Megan. Sorry, I think you broke up a bit there, but I think I get the gist of what you were saying. So in terms of extracurricular activities, quite a lot of students in the chat I've noticed have referred to EPQ, which is the Extended Project Qualification. Different unis kind of place different values on the EPQ. So for instance, at the University of York, for some of our courses, we will make a reduced offer if you achieve a certain grade in EPQ. And we find that EPQ is really valuable in terms of it gives you some really great skills when you are going on to university, such as independent research, writing your own independent piece of work, even in terms of referencing as well. So really draw on that kind of experience in your personal statement if you are studying for an EPQ, and also look at individual universities just to see their kind of ideas and thoughts around the EPQ qualification as well. In terms of other extracurricular activities as well, so if you're involved in any sports teams, any clubs, any kind of societies and things like that, think about the skills that you've gained from those experiences, especially if they do relate to your course that you're applying for. So think about that in the broadest sense, and if you have skills that relate to your course, then draw on those skills in your personal statement and how that can make you more attractive. Other things that you might have work experience. Obviously, we understand that work experience is quite hard to obtain at the moment due to the pandemic, but if you do have work experience in some courses which do value work experience higher than other courses, then again do draw on that as well. There's also lots of reading around subjects that you can do, and you can listen to things such as TED Talks, you can read journals, you can read magazines, and again all of that kind of things are really great to draw on in your personal statement, especially if you are finding obtaining work experience challenging at the moment. But hopefully there's some kind of good ideas and tips for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Vicky. There's definitely a lot out there for you to take part in. Universities and companies such as ourselves are trying really hard to make sure there's lots of activities that you can take part in to help you get ready to attend university and give you lots of inspiration and things to talk about when you're applying. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of our questions today. We've received a lot of questions today, and that's absolutely fantastic. We're really happy that you're also engaged in attending and you want lots of information from us. I really do recommend coming along to our event next week, as we'll be able to answer all of your questions then and hopefully give you a little bit more guidance on things that you perhaps even thought to ask today. So do come along. I've put the link in the VFairs chat on the Zoom one, and I will also pop it on the YouTube description for you. It's russellgroup.vfairs.com. All 24 of the Russell Group universities will be there, including 16 that you perhaps haven't met yet. So today we talked to 8 of them, and that was the University of Bristol, University of Glasgow, King's College London, University of Manchester, Newcastle University, Queen Mary University of London, Queen's University Belfast, and the University of York. So do come along next week. It's Wednesday, 10th of Feb, between 12 noon and 7 p.m. Thank you very much for taking part in our webinar today, and thank you to all the panelists as well. We've received lots of great advice, and I hope you found it useful, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.